All right, Aussies. Apparently, Islamophobia is on the rise in Australia, and for some unknown reasons, nobody knows why that is. Nobody knows why more and more Australians are becoming Islamophobic. As some unknown wise man once said on social media, that the number one reason behind Islamophobia is the behavior of Islamists.
Anti-Muslim hate rising in Australia? And if so, what can we do about it? Is anti-Muslim hate rising in Australia? And if so, what can we do about it? As a journalist, I've covered dozens of stories on assaults and attacks, but lately, hate crimes have been on the rise. Recently, I spoke to Samir Raghbat, who was allegedly attacked and stabbed on his way to a mosque in Melbourne. Luckily, the knife missed, leaving a hole in his jacket instead, but he was hospitalised after being badly beaten and traumatised by the ordeal. The Islamic Council of Victoria publicly condemned it and raised the alarm that anti-Muslim attacks were increasing, as did other reporting agencies like the Islamophobia Register Australia.
The attacks that we're seeing at the moment, or the kinds of incidences that we're seeing at the moment, they're highly focusing on a lot of verbal abuse to children, a lot of attacks on visibly Muslim women, but the severity is escalating, and that is something that we're highly concerned about at the Register.
In 2025, from January to September alone, reported cases of Islamophobia to the Islamic Council of Victoria more than tripled.
Why are these people reporting it to the Islamic Council of Victoria? As if that's not going to be biased in their reporting. 229% increase. Why they're not reporting it to the police? They need to report it to the police. We need an independent governing body. I will come to this point too. I'm not completely invalidating these incidents, by the way.
Rising 229%. The Islamophobia Register said their data has seen a six-fold increase over the past 2 years. But what was causing the increase?
Okay.
Research from the Tackling Hate Lab showed anti-Muslim attacks online peaked during two periods: the Bondi terrorist attack and after the October 7 attack. On the day of the Bondi terrorist attack, anti-Muslim hate peaked to 7,786 posts a day, while identity attacks targeting Muslims also rose into the thousands.
Could it be because of videos like these coming out?
Smiling. I'm smiling and I'm happy. I'm elated. It's a day of courage.
He's celebrating the October 7 terrorist attack, by the way. He's saying this is a day of courage and I'm happy and elated and glad and dancing like a monkey in the streets.
It's a day of pride. It's a day of victory. This is the day.
He's not saying this all alone. Look at all these people surrounded. Look at all these people surrounding him.
What have we been waiting for? 75 years of occupation. 15 years of blockade.
I can't even play you those videos. So as those videos were coming out where people were being shot point blank in the faces, people were being beheaded with shovels, and husband and wives or boyfriends and girlfriends were being separated from each other and being put at the back of a van or a ute. I don't know what you guys call it in America or the rest of the world. You know, when you have a utility vehicle with a tray back. So shiny look, her dismangled body was just there. This is what Muslims were saying on the streets of Sydney. That's not it. Unfortunately, I've got way more video clips. Look at this. This is the most famous Australian landmark, the Sydney Opera House. They said that we didn't say gas the Jews. We said, where's the Jews? What do you want to do to them? Gas them? These are ordinary Muslims, yeah? So when that Muslim is confronted alone on the street, I am not condoning that. I will address that issue in depth. This behavior cannot be ignored. I don't remember any mainstream Muslim coming out and condemning this behavior. That they definitely said. F the Jews. This they definitely said. We often forget about that because we get triggered by this gas the Jews bit. And they said, no, we didn't say gas the Jews. We said, where's the Jews? Okay, but what about the next one? F the Jews. Jews. Imagine that. Imagine you say F the Muslims. Well, I guess that's what these Islamophobic people are saying or doing. I've got more videos. Unfortunately, I've got a lot of these videos. It might have something to do with this. There are people alive in Australia who remember Australian streets and shopping malls free of this bullshittery. I remember it. This shit never used to happen in Australia. So when people see their country, their way of life, their culture being contaminated with foreign hostile ideologies, even if they're not hostile. For example, Australians are very angry about the inundation of Indians as well, which is perfectly fine and understandable. And a nationalist Indian will agree with you. No country, no culture, no way of life, especially the native ones, the ones who built these countries, should feel like aliens in their own country. It shouldn't happen. It's perfectly normal. But on top of that, you have these people who act so aggressively and violently, and they tell you this?
Yet that there is a Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala waiting to be established
in Australia.
We forget that every single day that we live without the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are being dishonored. We are being belittled.
Oh.
The blood of the Muslims have become cheap.
Ooh. So you might find an Indian doing fly tipping or washing his body with soap in a public swimming pool, which would anger ordinary Australians, and rightly so. But they're not hostile. They're not here to take over. They have their own interests, but they're non-civilizational threat. That is a civilizational threat in its own right. I mean, we should always protect the original culture. I have always said Australian white demography must not fall below 90%. It must not fall below 90% for that reason. But then at least they're not trying to. And if anything, there are actually a lot of Indian Hindus, even Hindu Indians who are Australian. Because they are inherently lefty, they fall in the trap of these Islamists for some reason. We've observed this behavior in the UK and now in America, like Ro Khanna and all these people. Like, you idiots. Do you not know what these people have done to you in your home country, India? So that is the reason why Islamophobia is on the rise. And look, provocation is the middle name of Islam. It's the same thing in the UK, France, Germany, now in America. And Australia would be no different. Australia is a Western country. Here's another Aussie Muslim.
We want to see the Sharia being implemented, and we want to see the Khilafah of the Islam being existing, then we need to strive for it. When Muslims are in state of strength, then they could start dealing with power.
And that's one.
It's high. When they're in power, that's when they'll show you who's the boss. And they're all united by pan-Islamic doctrine. You've got Yasir Qadhi in the US with the help of CARE and the Muslim Brotherhood. And then you've got those Dawa guys in Britain. They've got 25 Muslim MPs in the House of Commons. We've got 2 here in Australia in the Senate. Mehreen Faruqi, that horrible, horrible politician who hates Australia. You've got Fatma Payman, who won on Labour's platform, but then she separated herself and created a new political party called Australia's Voice, and it only had hijabis and Muslims. And she called it legit. She called it Australia's Voice. That's the name of a political party. Let's see how that unfolds. But she didn't vacate her seat that she had won on Labour's platform. These people are coordinated and aggressive, and they know what they want. Now, Islamophobia, the one that we started with, that ABC covered. Obviously, I will tell you that no sane person should walk up to an ordinary Muslim and harass him or her, verbally abuse them, dehumanize them. Because you got to understand, a lot of these Muslims are unwilling participants in this Islamic takeover. This is a civilizational clash. You got to zoom out and look at it from a civilizational perspective. And it's no longer a conspiracy theory. It's happening right before our eyes. Many cities and towns of England have completely fallen. Bankstown and Lakemba has fallen in Australia, and Dearborn and Hamtramck and so many parts of Texas and Florida have fallen. By fallen, I mean they're doing what they're programmed to do. Create their communities. That's what human beings do. They're creating their communities where they are living by rules and regulations that they think are the best. They're Islamic. That's culture and religions. These are people's operating system, and they're operating on that. So once you build your community, what are you going to do? You're going to look to expand. That's just how it works. So I would not recommend you, and this is why I would actually condemn it. Do not walk up to an ordinary Muslim woman or a hijabi woman and let out your frustration that way. That is not the way to go about this. I take my daughter to her kindy, and there is a wonderful Muslim hijabi woman, and she's she's really nice. She smiles and she looks after my daughter really well. And I often wonder, I'm like, oh, do you know who I am? Like, I haven't noticed any tension between her and me. So I think she probably doesn't know who I am. I have no malice in my heart for her. If she is distressed, I would go to her just as I would go to any other human being. Because I understand one thing, these individual Muslims are not your enemy. Yes, there are some bad individuals, like the couple that I played you. But an individual Muslim is just living his or her life as per his or her operating system. That's it. We need a bigger solution, a zoomed out solution, a civilizational solution, which is, sorry, we have tried this. We have tried to maximize foreigners' individual freedoms, like we have given them the right to wear burqas and niqabs, open up Islamic faith schools, which are, I'm sorry to say, extremely backward and primitive. They segregate. Sure, okay, you might say that other schools segregate too, but they segregate in the worst possible manner. That cannot work anymore. Sorry, it's not personal. Okay, it's not personal. You're okay Muslim. I don't hate you, but unfortunately, I have a responsibility to protect my culture. This is not a hostile position to take. I want to protect my country's identity. I want to protect my culture. I want to protect my way of life, which dictates that we have to have this curriculum. We have to have this standard of schooling. We have to have this standard of public behavior, which includes you cannot leer and intimidate and provoke women who do not dress according to your dress code. And you dressing up as a ninja warrior in bin bags, we don't appreciate that in our society. I'm not going to insult you that this is a goat herder's guide to heaven. Do whatever you want. But unfortunately, you're not going to do that in my country. That's the position every Western country needs to take, and we need to take that too. And this is exactly what Pauline Hanson is saying. So here's my final take. Islamophobia is on the rise, and this is the direct result of the bad behavior of Muslims. One more example, I'll give it to you. Remember these people? Remember these guys? These two nurses? They're the ones who openly, boastfully said that, oh yeah, if a Jew comes into our care, we kill them. This went global. This story went global. How did the Muslim community respond? You probably can't read all these little names. These are names of individuals and community leaders and Muslim organizations, advocacy groups, all things Muslims, basically. They endorsed these people. They stood by these people, which is the reason why a lot of non-Muslims believe that you stick together, which is kind of true. If you're going to behave in a similar manner as a community, then you will get a pushback, okay? And this Islamophobia that we're looking at, even though, as I said, I condemn those individual actions, they should not happen, but they will happen. No matter I say it, doesn't matter who says it. I say it. If I plead to every single Australian, do not go out and target, and I actually mean it, don't go after an individual Muslim. You might run into my mother, who's got nothing to do with anything, who gave birth to such a champion. Just joking. But that's futile. But no matter how many times I say it or people like me say it, it is inevitable that people will respond, they will retaliate, and innocent people will get caught. Because you as a community are behaving in a manner that is attracting a lot of resistance. These people are fighting for their way of life. They have a right to preserve their way of life. Who are you? 50 years ago, you were nowhere to be found on this continent, on any of these continents. Now you're here and you are changing the very fabric of these societies, and you intimidate people, you provoke people, you react in the manner that is offensive to people like this. This happened in Sydney earlier this year, remember? They do this everywhere. They told them to move away, and they started praying. And the police told them, keep going. They gave them a move on order. And look at this. They did that on purpose. Put their asses up in the air. So the police had to kick them off. They did that. They wanted to do that on purpose. They wanted this shot to claim, oh, look, Islamophobia. But you don't understand. This actually gave a lot of motivation to people to, yeah, that's how we need to be. This is how the UK needs to be. This is how America needs to be. It's not personal. Nothing is personal. We are fighting for our civilization. We are fighting to continue our way of life.